In this video, I'd like to look at a JSON program that reads a JSON file. And we've done this before, but this JSON file is going to be a little more complicated. It's going to have a list within a list. So I'll show you what that looks like. But first off, here is just the URL for this code if you want it. And here's the JSON we're going to read and do something with. It starts off with curly brackets, so overall it's an object. There is a property of that object. I think there's only one property of that object, which is painters. And painters is an array, because we note that by the square bracket. And it's a square bracket of objects. Now, I guess I've been using JavaScript language because it is JSON, JavaScript object notation. But I guess I should be saying that it's a dictionary with a key of painters and a list of other dictionaries. Okay, so we have a dictionary with a key of painters. The value of painters is a list. That list is of other dictionaries, like with properties like last name, first name, country icon. And then one of those properties is paintings, which then is itself a list of dictionaries. So there's a dictionary, there's the overall dictionary, then that has a key of painters, which has a value of a list. That list is of other dictionaries with information about a single painter. And then one of the properties of a painter is paintings, which is itself a list of dictionaries for the individual paintings. So they have titles and file names. So that's the type of thing we will be reading. And then I am going to sort of read in the data and sort of loop through it, spit some of it out, and then allow the user to choose a painting. And I have these paintings up on my website somewhere. So then I'm going to sort of open up a browser to that painting with the user makes it a reasonable choice. Okay, so let's go over to the paint. Well, let's run it, and then you'll see, and then we'll step through the code. So here is, I made a list of the painters and their paintings, and then the painters are given numbers, 1, 2, 3, and then the paintings ABC, they have their different numbers. So what do we want to look at? Let's look at the kiss. So we want 4 for the artist and C for the painting. So what is the artist number? 4. What's the painting? C. And then it's the kiss. And then I'm opening up a browser. And here is the kiss. Okay. So that was the game. Let's see how that was coded. So I'm bringing in JSON because I'm going to read a file and is JSON. So I want to be able to use that library, that module to understand the JSON. My JSON file is local. So I'm going to the Python program, and the JSON I can read the JSON off the internet, but I'm just not in this case. So right now they're right next to each other. And so I've done some operating system module work here to make sure that my terminal thinks it's in the same location as my Python file. So then I can refer to the JSON file just with its name, and they are siblings in the file system. Okay. Then I am opening the JSON file and then creating this thing called art using the JSON, and I'm doing a load. And I think in some previous video, I read in the text and then used loads with an S, and that was to convert a string into bring up, opening up the JSON, sort of parsing it as JSON and creating the dictionaries, lists, and whatever there is in the JSON. But in this case, the load without the S on the end directly takes a file. So just sort of one less step. Okay. So it works to read the file, bring in the text, and then convert the text into, then use JSON loads with an S, but you can also work directly with the file. Okay, so now I have that, all that information is in art, and we saw that art had a single key. It's a dictionary with a single key, painters, then which was a list. So I am going to take art and square bracket painters, so that one key, and I'm making a for loop, and I want the artist information, but I also want to be able to sort of number the artist. This is artist 1, 2, 3, and so I'm also introducing a sort of a counting and index into my for loop. It's going to start at 0. So when I'm printing it out, I'm adding a 1 so that my users see, I think it was Manet was the first artist. So Manet will be 1 instead of 0 as far as the user is concerned. But for us, programmatically, it's going to be, of course, artist 0. Okay, so we're using enumerate to turn this list of painters into something that can have an index. So I'm going to have the access to the index and the artist. I'm printing out this information. I'm printing out I+1, and then the first and last name of the artist. So we saw that here, say for James Abbott McNeill Whistler, that we have his first name and his last name. Okay, then for each artist, I wanted to do the paintings of that artist. And I've done this in sort of 2 different ways. So within my for loop, going over painters, I have a for loop going over the paintings for that painter. As I say, I've done this 2 ways. So in this commented out version 1, I am enumerating. So I'm taking art, I'm going back to the original art and painters and using my index I for my outer loop, and then going to the paintings and then enumerating that. So that's introducing a painting and a J. And then I am printing out all the information. And this car 97 plus J, 97 in ASCII is a little a. So I'm printing out the letters little a, little b, little c to sort of enumerate my paintings of the painters. So that's what I have going on there. And this even, so here I was going back to full art. Now I did, since in my outer loop I have access to artist, which was artist first, art painting I, that was artist. I can shorten this and just say artist. So I could say here I can loop over artist paintings. And even here, I'm going too far because artist paintings J is really just painting. So I could shorten this even more. So I'm not taking sort of full advantage to my loops here. But that's my nested loops over the artists and the painters, and then the paintings of that painter. And then I've outdented, so my for loop is done. So after I've printed out all the artists and the user can look, then I'm asking the user to input an artist number and casting it as an int, and bringing in a letter for the painter, for the painting of the painter, and putting it into lowercase. And I didn't do any real, I could truncate it to the first letter. I could have like whiles and ifs to make sure they'd entered the right thing, but I just have a big try catch. And if they do something that doesn't correspond to a painter and painting, I'm just going to sort of yell at them in a sort of a try catch. but I'm bringing in the artist number and then the painter letter, and then I have to turn those into indices. And so the artist numbers were sort of off by one, what the users of my program think of as painter one is painter zero. So I am subtracting one from user num. And then they have given me a letter. And so I'm using ORD to convert the letter into its ASCII, and I'm subtracting 97. So if they told me A, that will be 97, ORD of A will be 97. I'll subtract 97, I'll get 0, I'll get the first painting. And I want the file name. So when I get the file name of the painting, then I bring in the web browser module and open it. And then I have this, these are where I have all the paintings, a particular place in my website, and then add the file name. And that's what opened up the browser. And here's my sort of accept. I'm used to thinking of it as a catch, but the accept. And so if they gave me some bad information, if the user didn't enter a proper one or, so if I said there are 5 artists, if I said artist 6, and painting B, it just says there was a problem. That's what I wanted to show you, just the idea of, a somewhat more complicated JSON file with lists within lists. And that led to my nested for loops to sort of display things, and then just a little fun with the web browser at the end to actually see the paintings. That's what I wanted to show you. Thanks for your attention.